Now that you've logged in, I'm going to show you how you can start entering client details into the system. So the first thing that we're going to do is go to Workspace. So this is basically where you start. And we're going to start with the reception. So every client that enters into the facility will start from the reception. So we're going to ask them their first or last name, and we're going to enter their identifiers if they have any, and the identifier numbers, and whether they're male or female. So I'm going to search for Luther King. That's the name of my client who just walked in. And I'm going to click on search. So once I click on search, it's going to show me the number of people that are already registered into the system with a similar name. So currently we have 2 people that are registered with similar names, and they are definitely not Luther King. So I can confirm that this is not a duplicate. So I can go ahead and register a new person into the system. So I'll click on register. And once I click on register, it'll take me to this page, which allows me to enter the details of the client that I'm attending to. So I'm going to ask for their identifier, either whether they have a passport, birth certificate, national ID, driver's license. Usually most people carry their national IDs, and most people know their national IDs by head. So I'll click on national ID, and then I'll put on the national ID number. Make sure that you write the correct format of the national ID, and then you're going to click on check identification. So currently there is no ID number that was recorded in the system with the same details. So this is just to make sure that we do not create a duplicate. So the first name is Luther King, his last name is Luther King, and the first name is Martin. So I'll enter Martin, and then I'll enter their gender at birth, then I'll enter their birth date, and I'll click here on check demographics. Again, we are ensuring that there is no record for Martin Luther King already into the system, and the system confirms that there is no such record yet. So I'll click on OK, and then I'll go on to click on register. If you do not want to register at this moment, you can go ahead and cancel registration. As for our situation, we want to register Martin Luther King into the system, so I'm going to click register. Once you click on register, it's going to take you to a different page where you need to enter more demographics for Martin Luther King. So you're going to insert their self-identified gender, which is male, and ask them about their marital status. Ask them about their education level. Ask them about their occupation, their religion, nationality. So Zimbabwean is at the top of the list because most of the clients that you're going to be attending to are Zimbabweans. So we're going to click on Zimbabwean. Country of birth. Ask the client their country of birth and click on their country of birth, and then we go to next. Once you click on next, you're going to need to enter the person address. So I'll enter their address. Their suburb or village. And their town, which is Bulawayo. So instead of me having to scroll down this list, there is a search box here where I can type in Bulawayo and search. Then once I find Bulawayo, I select here. Then my house number is 2090, so I'll delete the suburb name and put it here. Then once you have captured these details, make sure you click on Save. So once you've clicked on Save, you have captured their demographic details. So this is our overview. Now we have the full name, Martin Luther King. We have the gender. Their age is 29 years. This is today's date. And we do not have the invoicing module yet into the EHR, so their balance is 0. And we have this accounting tab. And we have admit outpatient, admit inpatient. We'll discuss these further. Then I want us to focus on these tabs on our right. So if you click on demographics tab, you'll realize that all the information that we have been entering is already there. So if we want to update details, we can go to update. Maybe we need to update from married to divorced, and then click on save. And if you click on identification, remember we entered their national ID number, so there is the form of identification. And if you need to delete it, you click on delete. Are you sure you want to delete selection? Yes. If you need to edit, you're going to click on add. Then select the type of identifier. This time we want to put a passport. Then we're going to put a passport number. And save. And then we're going to enter contact details. Remember we captured their contact details. We captured their address. So here's the address that we captured. If we want to edit it, we're going to go to edit. And it's not Mahachula South, it's Mahachula North. And click on save. If you want to enter phone details, you're going to click on this plus and enter their phone number. And save. If they have an email address, you can also add an email address, which is lutherking@gmail.com, and click on save. Now that I've entered contact details, we're going to enter relations. Relations, we want to make sure that we're able to capture their next of kin. So if you click on the plus button, then they'll tell us their next of kin. So their next of kin is Mrs. Luther. And I'll click on search. Currently in the system, once you click on search, this list is a list of people that are already captured into the system. So currently in the system we have a Luther King, but we do not have a Mrs. Luther. So I can go ahead and register a new person into the system. So I'll click on register new person. And register Mrs. Luther. Their first name is Mrs. They're female. They were born in 1993. November 12th. Check just to check if there are any duplicates. There's no record found yet. Okay. Then I'll go ahead and register. So remember we are creating a relation for Martin Luther King. So Mrs. Luther is you need to confirm with the client. In our drop-down menu, we have child. Is she a parent? Is she a spouse? Is she a sibling? Is she other? So other is any other relation which is not here. So once you have confirmed, for me, Mrs. Luther is a spouse to Martin Luther. Then occupation, employed. Remember we did enter these demographic details. Then next of kin. Is Mrs. Luther the Martin Luther's next of kin? Yes. Does Mrs. Luther have same address as Martin Luther King? Yes. And click on save. So now here is our next of kin. Then we're going to go to medical aid. If they have a medical aid, you can enter the medical aid details here. So member name could be Martin Luther King. Then medical aid number, expiry date, then medical aid provider. So basically this is a list of all the medical aid providers. So you can search for CMAS and click search and save. So we have captured medical aid, relations, contact details, identification, demographics, and if you go to overview, you'll be taken to this page. So if you have the rights to admit this patient into a queue, you can go ahead and admit outpatient or admit inpatient. If this is an outpatient, you're going to admit an outpatient. If this is an inpatient, you're going to admit in an inpatient queue. So let's click on admit outpatient for Martin Luther. And we need to select the queue that we are sending our patient to. So these are a list of the queues that are available. So select a queue of your choice. I will select HTS and I'll send to queue. After you've selected your queue, you send to queue. You cannot send one patient to more than one queue. It's practically impossible because they only have 2 feet, so they have to go somewhere and then come back and go somewhere else. So if they have 2 places where they need to go to, or more than 2 places where they need to go to, you need to select the first point where they're going to go to. Then maybe from HTS, the person who's at HTS will then select where they're supposed to go to next. So for starters, we're going to send Martin Luther to HTS and send to queue. And patient has been successfully sent to next queue, and you click OK. Once I've successfully sent my patient to the next queue, I'm going to close patient file. And now we're back to where we started, patient reception, and you enter details of the next client.